This is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com with another video on making websites with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I want to show you a few more things, and then I'm just going to show you basically how you would deploy this out on a website using Netlify in the last video. Again, the idea here isn't to show you every little detail about making a pretty website. Making a pretty website is oftentimes just learning the tools, and then first what you should do is find some website find a few website templates that you think are really pretty and try to recreate them. Or find free templates online and study how they were created. It'll help you get a feel for how to do it. But let's see here. A couple things I want to show you. First, let's talk about classes and IDs. This is a CSS thing. So for example, up till now, I haven't used any classes and IDs. I've just been saying, hey, let's change the aside this way. Let's do that here. Let's say I wanted to change this button. And same styles that I had before, but do it differently. What I could have done is I could assign it a class. We'll say class the button. Okay, that's my class. Okay, so what I can do is I can put that class on any tag, and then if I define a style to go with that class, those tags with that class will then have that style. So if I go to index.css. Here with the button, I can just change this instead to dot the button. So you put the dot when it's a class. Okay, so it means, so if I hit save, whenever I hover over an element that's been assigned the class of the button, it's going to have that effect. So save. Since the button already had the style, it shouldn't affect the button at all. Let's see here. Yep, the button's still working the same. But what if I decide to put that class on something else? So let me copy and paste the class. And let's say I decide to put the class also on the aside. Watch this. Now if I go to hover over the aside, it'll change colors. Woo! That's neat. Okay. So you can create classes and then apply certain stylings to as many classes you want. And the cool thing is that you don't only get one class. I could make many classes. So I could be like the class and then have another class. Every time I hit a space, it's another class. So basically when you use a lot of frameworks like Bootcamp and Materialize, they have lots of classes that do small little things, and then you would just write like 5 or 6 classes on one element that do all the things that you want it to do. So what you can do is you can think of your styling in smaller tidbits and apply multiple classes to any element. Okay, but I don't want that there. Another way I could have done this is I could have done it as an ID. Okay, now the difference with an ID can only be used on one element. So generally, you would only use it on you usually use it more as a label, and then usually use ID more to find the element or refer to the element in JavaScript. Makes life a lot easier. Okay, more than styling, but you could. So for example, how that would work is you would go over here. Well, that's my JavaScript file. It's my index file. And so instead of saying the button with a dot, it would be a pound sign. That means it's an ID, the button, not a class, the button. So I hit save. Cool. Okay. And now if I hit save, refresh, the button still behaves the same. And again, I took that off the article, the aside, so that doesn't do it anymore. Now what I could do, now if we want to put it back on the aside, a way I could do that is, what if you want to give multiple tags, not via a class, but you want to give them like the same style but a different way. You could put a comma. And now, so I could put a comma, then put the aside, cover. So now it'll apply this same style to both of these. Okay, neat. So now aside should be changing colors again. So buttons, cool. And the aside changes colors. Ha! Okay, so that's that. So there's different ways you can target different elements and different things to style. Okay, whether it's an ID, a class, by doing one of these things where it's like, hey, here's the parent node and then the child node, and styling it that way. There's a bunch of different ways you can do it. This is literally only scratching the surface. Cool. Now, a couple of other things I want to make sure that we go over before we start uploading websites, even though this is like a ugly website, but that was the point, wasn't to make a pretty website, but to show you the tools. Okay, also just want to show you how to put a picture. So let's go to images.google.com and let's look up a beautiful sunset. Okay, fine, that's fine. Okay, it's got the watermark, it really doesn't matter. I can right click, take the image URL, copy image address. Okay, go back to my website. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in the article. So where's my article section? Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to put that below the button. And this tag is called image, so img. Okay, this is also a tag that doesn't require a closing tag. So this is just the opening tag and that's it. And then in the source, the src, here's where you list what picture you're linking to. Cool. So there I put the link to the picture. I hit save. The picture should be there now. And save. But that doesn't work for me. Oh my god, the picture broke my website because it's huge. So this is why it's important to style. So let's target that. Let's go index.css. Let's go to a new line. That was in the article block, and it's an image tag in the article block. So we'll just style that. It's not like I'm going to have a bunch of other image tags in that article block, so this should work for me just fine. I could also just give that image a tag, a class, an ID, all sorts of different ways I can do it. Okay, so let's see here. Let's make it no taller than height 200 pixels. Let's do that. Save. Does that get me where I want to be? Yes, but look, its images are in line. I don't want it to behave in line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the display of that image. I want it to be a block. So that way it pops up below the button. Save. And that's fine, but I want it centered. Okay. This is not text. I mean, well, if it's a block, then I'm trying to center a block now. If it was in line, I could just type center. I could do text align center, and that would center it. But since it's a block now, to get it centered, what I need to do is have it to get margin equally on both sides. The trick to this is just to hit margin auto. The problem is I would like it to be a little bit further away from that push me button. So I do want to change the top and bottom, give a fixed top and bottom margin. So I'll say 20 pixels. That's the top and bottom margin. But the left and right margin, I'm going to make auto. Because it's top, if you only put two numbers, it's top, bottom, left, and right. Okay, so basically you have three possibilities. You can put one number, which will be all four. You can put two numbers, which is top and bottom, left and right. Or you could put all four numbers, and that would be top, right, left. I mean, top, right, bottom, left. But that's more confusing. So I generally don't do that. Save. So that should, so the auto margin should center it, and then the 20 pixel margin should push it away from that push me button. And that's what it did. That looks much prettier. Okay. And hey, I can even round that image off a little bit, border by using that same border radius trick. But let's make it, let's round it up by a lot. So let's say 40 pixels and see what happens. Save. Okay, now that's a nice, pretty, it almost looks like a Apple app icon. Okay. Okay, so that's how you do things. Okay, and you can play with the image, and you can make the image. I can make it where you do an event if you click on the image by going to the HTML tag and doing an on-click event like I did with the button. You can do the on-click thing with pretty much any tag. If someone or any block tag, and someone clicks on it. Okay, so that's a pretty good tutorial of just sort of like the CSS and HTML. The JavaScript again. Let's do a quick visit of what's called Jquery. You can do this just through straight JavaScript, which is called, now again, everything on the website, what's going on here is that when the browser reads my website, my HTML file, it's creating a virtual copy of the website, or creating a living copy called the DOM, the Document Object Model. So there's this thing called the document. That's what we're looking at. We're not looking at the HTML file, we're looking at the document generated from the HTML file. And I can edit that living document during this instance of watching it in the browser. So this is what's referred to as DOM manipulation, because we're manipulating that document object. Okay. Now in JavaScript, it does have its own way of me finding that element and then manipulating it. So I'd have to type in stuff like document dot get element by capitals matter, by ID, and then I can specify the ID. So this is where IDs usually become really useful. So we would pretend I put some ID in there, and then I'd be able to make changes to it. But it does get pretty complicated if you use the straight JavaScript way. It's not a bad thing to do. It's good to know. So I do recommend learning it. But to save you some time right now, I'm going to show you something called Jquery. So let's go get Jquery, show you how to use it. Let's look up Jquery. Go to the Jquery website. Basically, Jquery is one of many infinite amounts of JavaScript libraries out there that either add new cool features that you can use for making your website. I mean, technically, anything you find in a JavaScript library, you could code out yourself, but it would just take you a lot longer. So using libraries kind of helps give you some stuff outside of the box. Okay. Now, what I want to find is what's called the CDN. Okay. So I could download the JavaScript file and then include it. But one thing that's really nice is a lot of times you can find a lot of these files just, here we go, using jQuery with a CDN. Okay, I click here. Nope, that's not what I was. I always have trouble finding the page with the CDN, but the CDN is essentially a link to a copy of the file online, so you don't have to bother downloading it. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do the minified version. All minified means is that they took the file with all the code and they subtracted out all the space to make it a little bit smaller. So if you were to try to read it, it'd be unreadable. So if you actually wanted to read the code to see how they did some of these things, you would want to download the uncompressed one. The slim version gives you all the easy DOM manipulation features, but you don't get all the cool animations and other kind of cool stuff that they have in jQuery. If you don't need that, if you just really wanted to be able to access those DOM elements really quickly, you can do that. And actually, we'll do that this time just to kind of show you. So the way a CDN works is I will copy and paste the tag, this script here, and then you can also find this for CSS libraries, because you can have as many CSS files and JavaScript files linked to your HTML document. So there's a lot of pre-made ones out there like Bootstrap and Materialize that give you all sorts of cool stylings that you can use right out of the box. Okay, so now that I have that copied over, I'm gonna go back to my index.html, copy it with all my other script tags. Okay, but again, you always want to make sure that you add the word defer at the end of your tag. So that way it doesn't load until after your website loads. Because if it doesn't, it'll cause problems. Okay. People have been in the habit of, using other ways to kind of deal with that issue, but this is by far the easiest way I find to deal with that issue. You just add that little word defer, and you don't have to worry about it, and you can keep all your script tags in your head with your links. Makes life a lot easier to know that it's all in one place. Okay, so now that we have jQuery installed, okay, we can now use jQuery. So I can do something like this. Let's take a look at our HTML. What would be a good target? Okay. Let's target the A tags. Okay, so if I did this, so if I want to create a variable, so I'm going to create a variable. We're going to say my links. That's going to be the name of my variable. Just what I'm going to do is I'm actually literally going to change the word of every link out there, and I'll show you how I do this. So my links, it's going to equal, and the way jQuery works is you put a $sign and parentheses. So what this tells the jQuery code just knows that anytime I do that, the inside is going to be like, okay, here's what I'm looking for in the HTML. So then I put quotation marks, and if I was looking for a particular class, I could type in like class the button, and it will find all the elements that have the class the button and assign it to that variable. Or I could do hashtag the button, which would be if there was an ID of the button, and take every element at the time that has that. So keep that in mind. It's looking at it now. So it's saying, okay, here's a list of all the elements that currently in this moment have that ID or that class, and we're going to assign it to that variable. Because you can get really fancy here and start creating more stuff straight from your JavaScript. So if you create new stuff that has that tag or class, you would have to redo this. You'd have to like call this thing again because it's not gonna it doesn't keep adding stuff to the variable. Okay, but I'm just gonna do it based on the A tag. Okay, so if I do that, it's just gonna say, a list of every tag that's an A tag on the whole website. Okay, so that's based on my navigation. Cool. And then that's that. Okay, so that command is done. So now that variable my links equals all the A tags on the page. Now, if I wanted to make it a new A tag, like I wanted to create a new link, the only difference is I would put that around it. So that when it sees the carets around it, then it knows, oh, you're thinking not of the existing A tags, you're talking about a new A tag that's not on the website yet, that I can then later add to the website, but I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole. Okay, well, let me go back and change that. So I'm going to change all the links. So I have all my links represents all the links on the website, and now I'm going to turn them all. So we would do my links. If you do dot text, this is a built-in method into Jquery that allows me to change the text of that thing. So I'm going to change the text of all of them to Alex. Okay, so every link on the page will turn into my name. Okay, so this should happen pretty much when the website loads up. So right now, take a look at it, home, about, products, help, contact. I haven't changed the HTML. Okay, so if we go back to the HTML, you can still see it, contact, help, products, about, home. But when I restart the website, all of them should change. And they did not. Okay, so let's examine my code, see where I made a mistake. Text, links.text, reference. And this is why this is where the dev tools become really useful, especially when you're working with the DOM, meaning you're manipulating the web page. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, okay, so here we go. It's not defined. So I made some sort of mistake in declaring my variable. It's not defined. That means jQuery is not connected correctly. Did I forget to save the HTML code? Save. Because see, if it's not recognizing the $sign, that means something's wrong with the way I plugged in jQuery. I mean, jQuery looks to be in there just fine. It may be because I took the slim version. So we'll try this one more time. Nope. So let's see here. Maybe I need the full version. I pushed the limits of slim. Okay, so I'll take the uncompressed full version because why not? Save. Control V. Let me add the defer keyword. Save. Let's refresh the page. Well, not that page. This page. Let's refresh. Huh. And it's still giving me the same problem. Now let me see. Oh, I know why. So here's what we did wrong. So notice that my JavaScript file is I linked to jQuery from below my index.js. So technically index.js is running before jQuery does, which means that whole $sign, all that jQuery magic, it doesn't even realize it exists yet because it hasn't seen jQuery yet. So I got to make sure that jQuery is before my JavaScript file for it to work right. So file, save. Okay, no matter how many times you make the same mistake, you're going to make them again. So now we should see that all that changes I made. And there you go. The navigation has all changed to Alex. Okay, so let's go back and take a look at that code. So technically, it wasn't the slim version that was the issue. It was my placement above relative to my JavaScript file, the one that I was writing in. Okay, and one last thing to show you about what's a cool thing you can do with jQuery. Let's let's also add. Let's make a variable that's the button. Button equals, and we'll just say it's going to equal. There's only one button on the page, so equals all the buttons. Yep, that looks good to me. Okay, and then I'm going to go add to that push me function. I'm going to make the button disappear. I'm going to use this hide function that's built into jQuery. So it's going to be button dot hide parentheses. So this is what I mean by passing a parameter. I can actually say 2000 in the function, and what this means in hide, it means 2000 milliseconds. So actually, let's make it even longer, 3000 milliseconds, so 3 seconds. Save. So what's going to happen is that when I click the button now, it also not only will do that pop-up alert, but it'll also slowly disappear the button for like after 3 seconds. So let's run. Okay, see, it changes the navigation to my name. And then if I push the button, we get the pop-up alert. But now what happens to the button? It slowly disappears. So there's all sorts of cool, fun stuff you can do in jQuery that you can learn. And that's not the only JavaScript library. There's all sorts of different JavaScript libraries giving you all sorts of cool tools. It's only scratching the surface of what you can do with the website. So we'll do one more video after this showing you how to get this up live online. Okay, so I'll see you guys there.